Hi guys, in today's tutorial you'll be learning how to make this beautiful spiral flank sleeve. It is a combination of a basic sleeve and a spiral sleeve. If this is what you're interested in learning, keep on watching and let's get started. I'll be making use of 1.5 yard of bridal satin for the two sleeves, and this is for both the lining and the actual fabric. If you want it as full as the inspiration you saw initially, you can make use of 1.5 yard of bridal satin for each of the sleeve. I'll equally be making use of this crinoline of 2 inches, and then you're going to be needing a basic sleeve for this tutorial. Now if you don't know how to draft out a basic sleeve, I have a detailed tutorial which I'm going to be linking in the description box, so you go check it out. The first thing we are going to do is to fold the fabric into 4 places. Now I'm folding into 4 because I'm going to be using this same fabric for both the lining and the actual piece. And remember, we are making 2 sleeves at once, so I folded into 4. Next thing I'm going to do is measure the width and then divide it into 2 to find the middle of the fabric. And then after this, I'm going to equally measure the length of the fabric to equally find the middle of the length, okay, and then mark it out. So now that we have the middle, you can see the next thing I'm going to do now is to measure around this middle. Okay, so I'm going to be marking out 2 inches around it. Now this 2 inches is like a standard. Some people also make use of 1 inch, or you can equally make use of 1.5 inches. Now I'm going to connect this to 2 inches in a circular form, just like this. Now from here, I'm going to have to determine the length of the flanks that I want. So from one of the 2 inches mark, I'm going to mark out 4 inches. This is the length of the flanks that I want. So whatever it is that you desire to use, go ahead and mark it out. And then after that, I'm going to connect it back to the initial point that I marked it out, okay? And then I'm going to continue to mark out my 4 inches, just like this. So guys, I'm going to continue to mark this out until I get to the desired length of flanks that I need. And this is why it is actually called a spiral flanks. You can see, so you can see the shape. I'm going to connect it to make it visible enough for you guys to see, and then after that I will forge ahead to cut it out. So guys, as you can see, I am done cutting it out, and this is for our 2 sleeves. So I'm going to remove 2 pieces of it, and I'm going to bring in my crinoline, move ahead to my sewing machine, and then restitch. So here is my crinoline. I've already taped them out with a masking tape, okay? If you don't have a masking tape, you can also burn the edge of the crinoline so it won't poke on your client. And then you are going to have to ensure that the lining and the actual fabric are right side facing each other, and then you are going to have to stitch using 1/2 inch. And so as you can see, that is what I am doing on top the sewing machine. Keep stitching around, and please, while you are sewing this, do not stretch the crinoline so that you'll be able to achieve the wavy effect that you want. Now after this, you're going to have to equally top stitch. Now this top stitching is not for the faint heart, you guys. This was literally paining my hand. You are going to have to struggle to do this, but don't worry, do this gradually and you are going to get to the finish point. Okay, now guys, as you're top stitching this, please ensure that you are pushing the seam allowance and the crinoline towards the lining parts, and then you keep moving. Now after I was done, I'm going to have to stitch up the two edges. So this is one part of it. After stitching it, you're going to have to turn it around, and then here is the other side. Now after top stitching this also, I'm going to turn it around, and then we move over to the table. Now guys, this is what I have. You can see, and this is one part of it. Okay, now here is what the inside looks like. You can see how neatly finished this is looking already. So I'm going to bring in the two flanks for the two sleeves. So here we go. Now the next thing I'm going to do is move over to my sewing machine, and then I will top stitch all around the edge just like this. And after that, I'm equally going to weave the rough edges just to give it a neat finishing. Okay, or you can actually fold in the edge and then top stitch on top. So guys, now we are going to have to sew this into the basic pencil sleeve. I know you'll be wondering why I have an underlay under this lace. Okay, instead of making it transparent, this is just to give it a protective feel, so that by the time I start sewing in these flanks into it, to not be too fragile. I hope you guys understand. Now first of all, what I'm going to do is locate the middle of where I want these flanks to start from. Okay, now I want it to stop right at the elbow point. So I'm going to measure from the upper part down to that elbow and then divide it, mark the middle, and then remove my seam allowances by the side 1.5 inches, and then I'm going to have to mark from this middle like a spiral where I'll be sewing these flanks into. That is what I'm basically doing right here. Okay, now after this, I'm going to have to move over to my sewing machine, and then we start to stitch. So you can see I'm trying to create the spiral. This is just like a guide where I will follow to sew in my flanks. Okay, so I am done creating it, and this is what I'll be doing right on the sewing machine. So I'm going to start from the middle point to start stitching. Now we're on the sewing machine, and I'm going to keep stitching. Please, you have to be careful, and please, you have to sew this as close as possible. Now guys, mine might not be as full as the one you saw initially, which is the inspiration we are looking at to make these clowns. Okay, this is just my client's preference. This is how full she wants hers to look. Now if you want it to be fuller than this, just like the inspiration you saw at the beginning of this tutorial, you have to make use of 1.5 yard of bridal satin for each of the sleeve. Remember, bridal satin comes by 60, and if you are making this with an ankara comes by 45. You have to make use of 2 yards of ankara for each of the sleeve. Now guys, after I was done, this is what I achieved. Now we are going to stitch up the side seam using 1.5 inches, which I left when I was drafting out the basic sleeve. Okay, so I'm doing that for the both sleeve, and you guys, after that, this is the final look of our sleeve. I'm now going to go stitch it into my armhole, and this is the end of this tutorial. I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.